those of you that don't know me, my name is Dr. Lindsey Elmore. I have a degree in chemistry as well as a doctorate in pharmacy. And about 8 years ago, I really took like a hard pivot towards natural wellness. And that was really what I wanted to be a part of. And so I started studying how the body truly works, started studying Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, functional medicine. It just goes the layers and layers and layers of knowledge that I have learned is really just an honor to get to be here to share it with all of you. And so tonight we're going to be talking about sleep, about stress, about how we can use CBD to get less stress and better sleep, all of the things. So excited to chat with you. Tell me, what made you show up tonight? Like, why are you here in this room right now? Because you could be a lot of other places, and instead you're here with us and with me, and you're here because you want to learn, because you think that something I'm going to say tonight might just help your problems. And so here's the thing, friends. There is nothing that sleep or lack of sleep does not make worse. So I like to really think a lot about what are the root causes of illnesses? What are the root causes of problems? And if you don't get good sleep, that is one of the 8 root causes of all problems that arise in our lives. And I'm seeing people like, I can't turn my mind off at night. I've struggled to sleep for years. Sleep is an issue for so many. It absolutely is. I want to learn how to sleep better. So we're going to take one big step back, and we're going to talk about CBD just in general. And then we're going to specifically talk about how CBD can help with our sleep routine. And Carol Rasmussen, like every night I wake up at 3 a.m. All right, we're going to work on that. So there's a reason why people have been using cannabis and cannabinoids since the beginning of time. It's full spectrum, like cannabis is pleasurable. It's pain numbing. It helps you to focus. It can be sedating. It can be relaxing, all of the things. And the legal restrictions have made it really hard to get CBD products, and that is until 2018. In 2018, there was the Agricultural Act that allowed us to be able to have CBD products. And so a lot of people wanted me to write about CBD, and we have great CBD options. And so when you think about CBD, is the second most abundant chemical constituent in cannabis. There's dramatically less known about how CBD works compared to THC, but when we look at CBD data, we have seen an explosion in the past few years in the research related to CBD. And it's interesting too, because they're plant oils, but they're not considered essential oils, and they're not considered really fatty carrier oils. There's something uniquely different about them. They're somewhere in the middle between a fatty oil and an essential oil. So how does CBD work? Okay. Well, it works because we have something inside of us called an endocannabinoid system. So the endocannabinoid system plays a vital role in physiologic and cognitive processes. A cannabinoid is a compound that interacts with this endocannabinoid system via a receptor. And there are two receptors in the endocannabinoid system. You have Cb1 and Cb2. And Cb1 exists mainly in the brain, particularly in the part of the brain called the substantia nigra, as well as the basal ganglia and the limbic system and the cerebellum. All right. And so you can see that they're widely distributed throughout the brain. These Cb1 receptors are also expressed in peripheral nervous system, as well as in the liver, the thyroid, the uterus, the bones, testicular tissue, etc. So the function of the Cb1 receptor is to mediate neurotransmitter systems that involve dopamine, involve GABA, involve glutamate, serotonin, norepinephrine, and acetylcholine. Okay. So when the Cb1 receptor is engaged, we see improvements in cognition, memory, the ability of the brain to change itself is called olfaction, as well as our motor movements. And most importantly for this call, this helps to mitigate and even out our stress response. It also has gastrointestinal, it can chill out the gastrointestinal system, which is critically important because if your gut is stressed out, so is your brain, right? So is your brain. So we can use our CBD to really hit all of these receptors. And then we also have cardiovascular activity and pain perception, okay? Cb2 receptors are mostly expressed in the immune system, okay? And they're expressed on things like T cells and macrophages and hematopoietic stem cells. So all the stem cells that can differentiate, they all have Cb2 receptors. They're also found in the spleen and all of, they're found in different parts of our immune system. This is important as it relates to sleep and stress, because if you are inflamed, your sleep will be inflamed, okay? So what do we know about sleep, okay? So I'm looking in the comments and, I think one big question that we can ask ourselves is, why do we sleep, right? Why do we sleep? And you have to sleep. Sleeping is critically important. If human beings did not need to sleep, we would have evolved away from sleeping. Sleep is an essential function that allows your body and your mind to recharge, leaving you really refreshed when you wake up. If you don't sleep, your brain can't function, and this impairs your abilities to concentrate and think clearly and process memories. And so we know that we need to get at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. And children and teenagers need substantially more sleep, particularly if they are younger than 5 years old. So I already saw somebody mention that my husband's sleep, his work schedule is throwing off of his sleep. That is one of the number one causes of sleep disruption, is when you have if you have to work a 7 on 7 off, or if you're working swing shift or whatever, it's really not healthy. If you do have to work overnight, we're going to have to work on your sleep environment, because it's very important that you work with your circadian rhythm, okay? Day-to-day stressors also cause problems with sleep. The disruptive bedroom environment is one of the main causes of poor sleep. So what we need to do, and also medical conditions, people who have restless legs or have complex regional pain syndromes or just have anxiety are all causes of poor sleep. Okay. So what we need to do is work on our healthy diet and our positive lifestyle habits so that we can get the right amount of sleep every single night. So your body clock regulates your sleep cycles, and that controls when you feel tired and ready for bed, or if you're waking up like refreshed and alert. So the body runs on a 24-hour cycle called the circadian rhythm. And the circadian rhythm is what is triggered by light. So this is why you may have heard people say, like, get up and go outside first thing in the morning. It's going to tell your brain, hey, it's time to wake up. You also may have heard how critically important it is not to expose yourself to a ton of blue light after the sun goes down. We want the blue light not to get into our brains because it's telling the cells. There's a cluster of cells in the hypothalamus, and it's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And this is where we process the signals of the light and dark. And this artificial light really messes with these cells. And so it's very, very important that we get up and go outside in the morning and then go to bed at around the same time at night. There are 3 stages of sleep. Sleep 1, there's non-REM sleep stage 1, non-REM sleep stage 2, and then stage 3, and then you have your REM sleep, which REM sleep is really what one of the things that we're trying to get after. And that is because during the REM sleep, your eyes will move behind your eyelids very rapidly. That's what it's rapid eye movement sleep. Your breathing rate, your heart rate, your blood pressure increases. This is where people dream. And, this is where sometimes people can become sleep paralyzed, is when you get stuck in that REM sleep. And REM sleep is important because that's where we get our memory consolidation. Okay. That's where we get our memory consolidation. All right. And so if you don't get enough sleep, what are the problems with that? Lack of sleep has been related to obesity, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, poor mental health, and even early death. Like, the whole thing of I'll sleep when I'm dead is, well, you're going to get there faster if you keep not sleeping. And so what do we need to do? We need to craft a bedtime routine. All right. So we can establish a realistic bedtime and go to bed every night at that time. Maintain a really cold temperature, get a comfortable sleep environment with the best mattress, the best pillows, the best sheets, all of the things. Consider turning off all of your electronics and having a screen-free room. And that, you want to ban your screens on, TVs, computers, tablets, cell phones, and electronic devices. If you cannot do all of those things, at least do not watch TV in bed and do not do work in bed. I get it. People scroll their phones, but turn your phone off at night, like while you're sleeping. And then don't eat big meals. Avoid caffeine for at least 4 hours before you want to go to bed. And if you are in a situation where you've had a large meal, you've had something in there, then go ahead and take some digestive enzymes, etc., to help chew through that. Another thing about caffeine is if you have stress or anxiety in your life, the number one thing I want you to take away is if you get rid of that caffeine, you are going to do yourself huge favors, and you're also going to ensure that your CBD is going to help even more. So daily stressors are a huge, huge cause of lack of sleep. And we need to be sure that we are doing what we can to mitigate it. And so the great news about CBD is that you don't have to only take it at night. You can actually take it during the day as well. That is going to help you to have better sleep because you're reducing and mitigating your stress all throughout the day. And you know, one reason that I really, really like having, having a collaboration with Eaton Hemp is that it's a 100% like USDA organic and full spectrum CBD. A ton of places do CBD isolates, but the isolates don't quite have the same like research behind them. Okay. So let's go back now into a little bit of science. And so remember, we talked about the endocannabinoid system. So the endocannabinoid system is very much related to our sleep because it plays a role in regulating our circadian rhythm. And so it regulates our circadian rhythm, and cannabinoids that attach to the Cb1 receptors that are in the brain, that we don't know exactly how they help with sleep, but we know that they interact with that suprachiasmatic nucleus that affects our sleep and wake cycle. But more importantly is that CBD has lots of data to show that it can help with minor aches and pains and stress of the day, which is both are well known to interfere with sleep. And so we can actually use one, you may say like, oh my gosh, I'm taking this because my knee hurts, but you're also going to get that added benefit of, and now I'm sleeping better. So while we need more research, there has been some research. So there was data collected between June of 2016 and March of 2018. And the average starting person said that their average insomnia was about 6.6, with 1 being the worst of the worst, or sorry, the best of the best, like I'm sleeping like a champ, to 10 being severe. Okay. And so CBD was on average, excuse me, the average sleep score went from 6.6 to 5. It helped by 5.7%. And so they decreased to an insomnia score of 4.5. So that's great. We're going from 6.6 to 4.5. That's awesome. And so people are also, in a follow-up study, they reduced their sleep score from 6.6 to like 2.2, which, I mean, you want to talk about something phenomenal. If you're saying 10 is the most severe and 1 is I'm sleeping like a champ, to go from 6.6 to a 2.2 is a really, really big jump. And that was published in the journal Medicine, and that was 409 people who participated in that study. And then another study published in the Permanente Journal looked at 72 adults with anxiety and poor sleep. And the participants were asked to make sleep assessments, and then they were given 25 milligrams. That's not that much of CBD. It's really, really not. And so they took 25 milligrams And what they saw is that when they started, their anxiety was their number one complaint. But what they saw is after a first month, their stress and anxiety scores decreased by 79% in this study, but their sleep scores improved 66%, indicating that people had less trouble falling asleep and less trouble staying asleep. And these results suggest that CBD may be a powerful tool in helping us with sleep, because they help to even out the mood. They even out the mood. And we've seen CBD used for it in smaller studies, where even with children, there have been published studies of 10-year-olds with stress and poor sleep using it. And, you can also you can titrate. I'm a pharmacist, and so we tell people you're going to start low and go slow. Start low, go slow. And there's plenty of evidence to show that CBD can improve sleep. And so we want to be sure that we're using it as a part of our arsenal that's going to help. You can use a tincture. I am sitting here drinking a smoothie it's got hemp seeds in it. And so you could do that as well. And so yes, lower that dose, start low, go slow. 25 milligrams, great place to start. And then just and then you can go up. So you could always say, all right, well, 25 milligrams, I'm not really feeling it. Maybe I'll take another 12 and a half tomorrow, etc. Is CBD habit forming? It is not. And that is a big differentiator, because many of the medications that treat insomnia, number one, the medications that treat insomnia destroy your REM cycle. Well, if you're destroying your REM cycle, then you're really not sleeping. You're not getting any restorative sleep. And so that's that. And so if you're having a hard time staying asleep, Jenny, then what you can do is, again, if you fall asleep and you wake up 4 hours later, number one, I want you to take note. I saw somebody earlier that said, I wake up every night at 3 a.m. Okay. Well, that is something that you can learn about, which is the Chinese medicine clock. So if you're waking up at the same time every night, then what you're learning about yourself is that you have a disorder in your body, right? And so the liver transitions to the lung energy. So the liver energy is where we get our deepest sleep. So it's not uncommon for a ton of people tell me, I wake up every night between 1 and 3 a.m. That's because your liver's clogged up, friends, and we got to clean out that liver. Another lesson that we'll learn from the Chinese body clock is that the most restorative sleep that you can have is between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. And I know you're going to think I'm cray, but if you can go to bed and be asleep by 9 p.m., your life is going to change dramatically. Gay benzos are not typically used for sleep, but they can be. But the ones that destroy your REM sleep are all of your sedative hypnotics, like Ambien. They disrupt your REM sleep. Yeah, if you could go to bed earlier, you're going to be, appreciative. And so can you take too much of a CBD tincture? Of course, friend, you can overdose on water. And so that is why we say go slow. Just go slow. Like start with a low dose and work your way up. So what brand do I recommend? I use Eaton Hemp. That's what I use. I mean, that's what hemp seeds are in my smoothie right now. That's how I made the hemp milk that's in the smoothie. And so, you can check out Eaton Hemp. And I'm going to have to grab my link for you. I totally forgot about it because I know that they are doing a special little deal and everything. So, maybe Finn, you could help me out. Just reminding everybody what we're going to be able to offer them. How much specifically if you're on pharmaceutical meds, right? Well, there you want to start even lower and slower. You want to start even lower and slower. So maybe you start with 12 and a half and just see how it happens, right? See how it happens. Tina made a great point that sleep is necessary for her. My husband works 12-hour shifts during the week and snores like crazy. So if he snores like crazy, that's bad. Snoring is a bad sign because snoring means that you're going to stay in fight or flight mode all year long. Okay, so you can get 40% off of everything you want at eatonhemp.com using the code Lindsey40. Using the code Lindsey40. So if you are snoring, I encourage you to go work with a breathing specialist like yesterday. And the reason that we need to work with a breathing specialist is because if you're snoring, you're never getting out of fight or flight. And if you're never getting out of fight or flight, your body is you're not actually sleeping. You're laying there and you think you're sleeping, but you're not really sleeping because you can't let go of all of the inflammation that is associated with it. And so there are lots of ways that you can become better at sleeping. And one of the ways is you have to work on keeping your mouth closed at night. And I know that sounds crazy, but literally wake yourself up in the middle of the night. If you find your mouth fall open, wake yourself up, and you can train yourself to do it. There's also data that CBD can, it's really the CBD, honestly, the way that it primarily helps with sleep is by allowing you to have less stress during your day. But there's also data that shows that it can reduce nighttime awakenings. Okay. It also can help with anybody who has just restlessness in their sleep or stress that's leading to people clenching their teeth. Both of these are sources of sleep disruption. And so we want to be sure that we're using natural methods. And so another thing is the supplement market, they have lost their minds when it comes to melatonin supplements. When it comes to melatonin supplements, we need to chill. We used to have melatonin supplements that were 1 milligram, 2 milligrams. The other day I saw a pharmacy shelf, 50 milligrams of melatonin. And I was like, that's absurd. That is absurd and insane. Like that is too much. It's too much. And so CBD is a way that you could easily avoid using really big doses of melatonin. And so I'm on CPAP and breathe with my mouth open. Peggy, friend, go and listen to my podcast. I interviewed a woman. Her name's Carice Laguerre, and she talks about just how bad this is. Just how bad it is. And you can also you can also consider a CPAP machine. It's been a long time since I have worked with a CPAP machine, but I believe that you can get them that only fit over the nose instead of the mouth and nose. But Peggy, you're going to have to figure out how to close your mouth at night. You're going to have to, so how do you take it? How do you take the oil? You can put it in a smoothie. You can take it in a capsule. You can put it directly into your mouth. It's got just a plain kind of herbaceous flavor. It doesn't really taste like much. What do you do with the hemp seeds to make the milk? Finn, correct me if I'm wrong, but to the best of my recollection, you take a 1/4 cup of hemp seeds with 3/4 cup of water and blend that up together, and then you have hemp milk. You just have to put it in a really high power blender to get it to turn into milk. And so I have a Vitamix that I use, and so that is an option for you to consider. And just drop some hemp seeds into your smoothies. You can put hemp seeds on top of salads and eat them that way. And, if you guys haven't tried the snacks over at Eaton Hemp, they're amazing. 1/2 cup of hemp hearts. See, my ratios were so wrong. 1/2 cup of hemp hearts to 3 cups of water with a tiny bit of sweetener. And that could be, you may want to use sugar. You may want to use agave. You may want to use stevia, whatever. You may want to use honey. You've got all of that. And then, if you want to get fancy with it, put some vanilla extract or put some chocolate in there and make chocolate hemp milk, all of the things. Denise, yes. Denise nailed it. There is actually a proper way to hold your mouth as you breathe and as you sleep. And the proper way to breathe is with your mouth closed and your tongue, the tip of your tongue, touching the roof of your mouth. This creates a conduit that you can use to, that's going to help funnel the air to where it needs to be. And so, and the other thing I like about, there's a lot of different formulas of CBD, but I personally like the tinctures and the hemp foods. If you're using something that's like a gummy, you're also getting sugar. You're probably getting artificial dyes, artificial sweeteners, all of those things. And yes, we practice that type of breath all of the time. That type of breath and that type of breathing is really, really, really important. And so, we know that there's more research to be done, but we know that when we use CBD all throughout the day, we're helping our body get rid of inflammation, and we're helping our brain wave patterns not to be so in our alpha waves. Alpha waves are very disordered and frantic energy. But the beta waves are what we're really going for. Okay. And so, there are real life people who have real life turnaround stories with CBD. And so be sure that you're adding it in to your daily routine. And, and CBD doesn't have the same effects as THC. So THC is what is the main chemical constituent in marijuana. That's the one that gets you high, right? And so, but some people, so if you're using CBD, you're not really having to worry about withdrawal or dizziness or balance problems. You're not dealing with trouble thinking, health problems, substance misuse. None of those things are there. And CBD is relatively safe. I mean, you guys, we make our own endogenous cannabinoids. We make our own cannabinoids. And so CBD is very, very well known to be safe. There's no data to show that it's harmful. But what we do need to take a look at is, are we sure that we're getting actual CBD? Is that what we're actually getting? And so we need to take a look and go, who am I buying this from, right? Who am I buying this from? And so we want to be sure that we're looking for things like, is this organic? Do I know that the farming practices are healthy? Is it full spectrum, which I personally think is very important. I don't like CBD isolates. They don't have the data behind them. And so we need to know, like, is this validated by a third party? Does it have a money back guarantee? So because the industry is not regulated. And so we just need to be sure that we can trust the company, because if you're saying that there isn't data to show that it's harmful, but you have to know who you're buying it from. And so let's talk a little bit more in depth, because I'm seeing the questions kind of slow down a little bit. So I'm going to go back into I'm going to go back. Oh, look, Eaton Hemp's helping me out. Yes, the best practice is to tincture under your tongue for like 30 or 90 seconds. CBD can be used topically. Absolutely. What about a random drug test at work? Well, number one, check your state law on how strict are they on marijuana. Like, how strict are they on you using, because if your state has legal marijuana, then your company really doesn't need to be testing for it. There is always a small risk of a false positive on a drug test, but that's not necessarily related just to the CBD. Drug tests fail on the regular. Drug tests fail on the regular. And so because drug tests fail, there's always a risk for a false positive. Okay, let's come in and talk a little bit more about how CBD works. Okay, so there are lots of different ways that you can use cannabis, that you can use CBD. Cannabis is primarily smoked, but you can also vaporize it, and then there are edible products. And another great thing about using a CBD edible product versus a THC and CBD edible product is because it's like Snoop Dogg says, you just don't know where that thing has an off switch. The pharmacokinetics, the way that the supplement gets into your body, how intense the feelings are, and the duration of the effect are called pharmacokinetics, right? And so we know that if you're putting it on topically, you're avoiding something called first pass metabolism. You're avoiding something called first pass metabolism. And this first pass metabolism is when you take something by mouth, when you eat something or when you take a medication, the blood goes immediately to the liver, and the liver just like chews everything up. Right. And so I think it's important for us to, recognize that if you've been used to taking a supplement by mouth and then all of a sudden you take it topically, you're going to have an increased effect, because you're passing first pass metabolism, you're bypassing it. And so topical preparations, you want to use things topically for anything that's like a local condition or a skin condition, etc. And when you're using things topically, you're typically going to get a very rapid onset of action and a 2 to 3 hour duration of action. And so edible forms of CBD and cannabis products are very, very widely available. So oral administration is considered to be a little bit slower. So if you haven't, like, it takes about 30 to 120 minutes to start working. And so this is a good learning lesson. If you are using something, if you're using something by mouth and you're like, it's just not working, friends, don't double dose. Don't double dose, because you're going to end up having like too much. You're going to end up having too much in there. So don't double dose, because we want to be sure that we're only getting the actions that we want. Okay. And uh-oh, my computer is glitching. Give me one sec. My file that I'm using to help guide me just crashed. So let me grab that again. Apologies. What other questions can I answer for all of you? We're here. We're in this room. You know, we're not a small group, but a small-ish group. And so I am. All right. Let's keep chatting. We've already been through all of this. My apologies, you guys. Okay, so let's talk about why full spectrum oil is so important, right? Full spectrum oil is CBD as well as all of the compounds that naturally occur in the plant. This includes terpenes, the essential oils that are in there, or other cannabinoids. There are over 100 different cannabinoids in the plant. And so we need to be sure that we are getting that full spectrum. The full spectrum of constituents from the whole plant work together to magnify the effects of the CBD. And this is called the Entourage Effect. The Entourage Effect. So full spectrum products typically contain higher levels of THC than do the isolates, but that's okay. You know, it's actually just going to go towards the effectiveness of the product. Yes. So Gay, I hope that answers your questions, because, you know, full spectrum CBD is everything that's extracted from the plant. Broad spectrum CBD is where they take out the THC, but they leave the rest of the stuff in there. And then CBD isolates are exactly what they sound like. And the problem with CBD isolates is that they've removed any trace of THC. So, but they're also removing terpenes, waxes, oils, the chlorophyll, all of the things. And then there is enhanced CBD isolate. So some companies are like, I want to just like add all those terpenes and everything back in, you know what I mean? And so there's no like perfect answer for which one to choose, but I really think that you want to lean towards a full spectrum is my personal opinion. I think that it is valuable in order to have that full spectrum. Okay, lots of questions. Will this upset my stomach? I don't know, but all you can do is give it a try. And if you give it a try and you upset your stomach, then use it topically. Just use it topically. And yes, so Vicki, if you're looking for, sleep support, then Yeah, just try the extra strength. How long do you say at 25 milligrams before deciding to go up or down? I don't know. It depends on you, friend, because every person's body is very, very different. And so we want to be sure that we're giving it a nice solid week or two before we decide that it just simply doesn't work, because it's not like a sedative hypnotic. It's not designed to work like immediately, right? And so you want to be sure that you give it plenty of time. Now, there are some drug interactions with CBD. And so if you are taking a medication that treats antiplatelets, a drug called Plavix, there is an increased risk of some side effects from the CBD. People who have arrhythmias and are using medications to mitigate those arrhythmias can have some problems. There are antibiotics that interact, tamoxifen, a very common drug used in breast cancer. There are certain SSRI meds, fluoxetine and fluvoxamine, that interact. And so just be careful to look. And if you don't know, and I don't want to just keep prattling off the names of medications, what you can do is ask your pharmacist to tell you, is my drug metabolized by what's called CYP2C19 or CYP3A4, right? And if they say yes to that, then there's a way that you are monitoring for signs and symptoms of side effects. If you're using hemp seeds or hemp milk, how do you know how many milligrams you're getting? I'm going to have to phone a friend for that. Is there any company analysis of like, hey, the average hemp seed contains this? But my instinct is to go, you just may not know. You just may not know. There is no interference with warfarin. And so that's good. And somebody asked about like grogginess in the morning. So, in general, CBD is very well tolerated, very few side effects, but it may, I know you're going to find this shocking, it makes people sleepy. Is the number one side effect of CBD, is people get what's called somnolence. They get tired. And it also can change appetite and, change your gut health, but it's probably a sign that you're doing okay, right? That you're doing okay. Another sip that interacts with CBD is CYP2D6. There's actually no CBD or THC in hemp seeds, just a whole lot of omega-3s. See, even I get to learn something new on this call, and that's why we got together. Yes, the hemp seeds are absolutely full of omega-3s, and so that's very, very cool to know. Not even I knew that. And so there's also this medication, the enzyme called CYP2D6, and CYP2D6 can also, it works a little bit differently. So the first two enzymes that I gave you in all those meds, this one increases the risk of adverse effects of CBD. The medicines that are affected by CYP2D6 may actually increase the risk of medication adverse effects. So we have to also look out for low blood pressure in people who are taking medicines like carvedilol or metoprolol. And then medicines that are used to treat depression may be increased. And so we just, CBD drug interactions are very, very, very complicated, because there's also, with this CYP2D6, where we're actually speeding up the enzymes, there are some medications that you take and they're not true like medications. They are prodrugs. They're prodrugs. And so if you're taking a medicine that is a prodrug that then CYP2D6 then has to go like, phew, and chop this thumb off so that this is now your drug, you're going to increase the mechanism. You're going to increase how fast that is going. And so just ask your pharmacist about CYP2D6, CYP2C19, CYP3A4, and then to make it even more complicated, CBD inhibits, it's an enzyme that what it does is it picks up all of the foreign stuff that is in your blood and throws them into your gut because they're like, ooh, get out of here, toxin, get out of here. And so it's interesting because CBD inhibits Pgp, which may reduce the excretion of medications and increase the risk of medication toxicity. And, most of the drugs are not as common, but you do want to be careful combining CBD with opioids because of this Pgp interaction. Okay. And so, we've spent most of our time here tonight talking about sleep, but the amount of data related to CBD is, like I said, it's just expanding so rapidly. So, you may find that the CBD helps your pain and therefore you're able to sleep better. You may find that it helps to even out your brainwave patterns, which is going to be really important. I'm trying to think, how do I say this compliantly? You just want to even out those brainwave patterns and flip from alpha waves into our beta waves. CBD can help people who are underweight to gain weight. It has, like I said, the most common side effect of CBD is sedation. And the cool thing about comparing CBD to meds that treat sleep disorders is that, you're using CBD to give you those sedative effects, but there is evidence that CBD can reduce sleep disturbances associated with REM sleep cycle problems, right? Well researched to help with mental health problems. So if you're stressed out or maybe in a bad mood and it's causing insomnia, that may be the way that this actually comes into play and helps you. It also protects the nervous system. It protects your brain. And your brain is going through what's called glymphatic drainage while you're asleep. So it's just draining out. Any interactions with aromatase inhibitors, such as anastrozole, not typically. So whenever I teach, people are always like, what about this drug? What about that drug? What about this drug? What about that drug? Listen to me. Hear me, friends. All I want you to do is be an empowered owner of your own body. You want to be an empowered owner of your own body because you want to be the person who has shown up at their pharmacist and said, what are the signs that my medication level is too high? And what are the signs that my medication level is too low? And that's what we want to focus on, right? That's what we want to focus on. And so, I think the other thing is just know your medications, know your pharmacist, know who to talk to. I also, children have used CBD because the endocannabinoid system plays a very important role in the early stages of embryonic development. And so children have used CBD. And, there's no conclusive evidence of saying that this is dangerous in children. But of course, you want to go very, very, very low on the dose. So nothing bums me out about saying 5 milligrams, 15 milligrams, etc. And so I think that we, the bottom line for the use in children they've got lots of studies that point to the potential benefits, but of course you're going to run it past your doctor or your healthcare professional before sharing it in children. What about pregnancy? Well, people take CBD during pregnancy, but it's well known that CBD crosses the placental barrier. So that is something that you're going to have to discuss with your healthcare professional. And so we want to be sure that we're being, judicious with our use, because CBD does cross the placental barrier. And last thing that I'll say before we head out is, if you have any pets that are also struggling to sleep, you may try CBD in them as well. Just go on a really low dose and just, count in how much does my pet weigh, because you're going to give your Great Dane a very different dose than your like multi-poo, right? Okay. Any multi-poo owners? Somebody told me today, they were like, I'm just glad to see a dog that's not a poo. And I was like, I know that. So, anyways, friends, my name is Dr. Lindsey Elmore. You can find me, lindseyelmore.com. Please come and listen to my podcast. Follow me on social media. I'm at Lindsey Elmore on Instagram and Facebook, as well as at Dr. Lindsey Elmore on Pinterest and TikTok. And so I love it. Vicky asked again, what kind of smoothie? So I'll honor that since she wants to know. So what I did was I took a whole, now, I mean, like yesterday, this was up to here, right? It was full. I guess it really wasn't. I guess it was up to there. Let's not exaggerate. Okay. So what I did was I took a whole bag, like an 8-ounce bag of mango chunks, put that in there. I put, 6 scoops of protein powder, because this much smoothie is like enough smoothie for 4 days for me. So I put 6 scoops of salted caramel protein powder. So it's a mango salted caramel flavor. I then put in Eaton hemp seeds, as well as some MCT oil. I put in, I have a fiber supplement that I really like that I put into there as well. And then here's the secret sauce, right? You're not ready for this. I'm telling you, you're not ready for this. Instead of using just like hemp milk, because I'll put some hemp milk in there, but I also put green tea in it, like full on green tea. And so I take the green tea while it's like piping hot with that giant mass of frozen mangoes, and then blend all that together. It makes the best smoothie. It makes the best smoothie, and you're getting fiber, you're getting omegas, you're getting healthy fat, you're getting phytonutrients, all of the things. So yay, Deborah. I love you guys. You show up at everything I do and are just some of my favorite people. And so I hope that this added value to your life, and that you will go to eatonhemp.com/Lindsey to get your 40% off right now. And I'm over and out. And thank you so much for coming in tonight. I appreciate you, and good night.